Welcome to the Happy Mama Movement podcast. I'm Amy Taylor-Kabbaz, mama, journalist, coach, and founder of Mama Rising. This podcast is a space of community and collaboration. We gather stories of matrescence, motherhood, womanhood, and change told by our Mama Rising coaches and mothers around the globe, in the knowing that through our stories, we can begin to heal and change the way the world sees, values, and supports mothers everywhere. So, welcome to the Happy Mama Movement.
Welcome back, everybody. I have a question for us to reflect on this week. How do we stay hopeful in the middle of ongoing challenges? How do we access hope when it feels hopeless? That's what I really got out of this interview you're about to hear. Today I'm speaking with Alison Beder Solway, the author of the newly released book, The Miles We Run, and mother of 4, 3 of which were born via surrogacy. Her first child is now nearly 26. So 26 years ago, surrogacy was not as well known or accessible as it is today. What I really heard in this interview with Alison is, how do we hold on to hope when it feels like there isn't much left? And what does real resilience and strength look like, especially as a mother and a woman, when life seems to continuously challenge us, when things feel at times hopeless? I really loved this conversation with Alison, and you'll be able to find all the details of her book in the show notes. Wherever you are in the journey towards motherhood and through motherhood, I hope you find hope in this conversation. Enjoy. Alison, welcome to the Happy Mama Movement podcast. It's really lovely to connect with you on the other side of the world this morning.
Yes, Amy, it's so nice to speak with you as well. I'm excited for this conversation.
Me too. So often on this podcast, I talk to mothers who are still very much at the very beginning of this experience of matrescence and motherhood, maybe a few years in, and they reflect on and share what they're learning about themselves through matrescence. But I love it when I get a chance to talk to a mama like you, who is a little further down the path of motherhood and life, and really hear how it turns out, I guess, in one way, how these experiences and challenges of how we become a mother shape us, and the hope that we can really see in what we learn from this. So you, your eldest child is nearly 26. So
Yes.
This has been quite a journey of becoming a mother and what you've discovered about yourself along the way. Do you want to take us back to what you expected becoming a mother would be like?
That's such a good question. I think growing up, I knew I always wanted children. So my sister and I are about 10 years apart. And I knew from a very early age that I wanted to have a family similar to my own, a brother, sister. And so I was always imagining my life with 3 children. And I was excited to become a mother. Because I was 10 when my sister Erin was born, I got the benefit of helping raise her, but not being the mom, being the fun sister. So I had an idea of what it was like to be a mother from a very early age. My mom was a wonderful example for me as a mother to my sister. And so when we became pregnant, I was very excited that I was going to be a mom myself. I had a very challenging pregnancy. It was not what I expected it to be, as would turn out. Having all my children wasn't what I expected to be. I nearly lost my life in my 8th month pregnancy with my daughter, and thank God she was fine after her birth. And my heart, which was the issue, stabilized after her birth as well. But becoming a mom was everything that I had imagined. It's, you know, it's hard to actually describe in words because the feelings are so big. And when I first got to hold my daughter Hannah, I I couldn't believe she was mine, that she was real, that I had created this with my husband out of love. And it was wonderful. It was a wonderful experience. And I know some moms find it challenging and tough, those first those newborn stages, let's say, and those first few years, which I absolutely understand. There are so many ups and downs, in raising children. My perspective, however, is a little bit different because I had such an incredibly challenging pregnancy and birth that I was so thankful that she was okay, that even during the long nights and the colic and the all the ups and downs of having a newborn at home, I was so thankful. I didn't take it for granted because it almost wasn't. And for me, becoming a mother, I just felt so blessed that even though I had gone through a challenging pregnancy and birth, I was still a mom. So becoming a mother to her was, a wonderful, wonderful experience.
Thank you for sharing that. Yes, I think I have been speaking to mothers for over 15 years now, and that story we tell them of just be grateful that you're healthy and your baby's healthy can sometimes feel a little dismissive because
Absolutely.
there is also a lot that's just changed and you actually almost didn't have this baby. And there's truth in both, right? We can be so incredibly grateful that we're here and we're healthy and this happened. And yet also you've just been through something pretty traumatic. And this is a big life-changing moment. So I love that 25, 26 years down the path, there's this beautiful anchoring I can hear in the way you speak about it, that even though it was challenging and scary and life-threatening, in the end, that gratitude is what kept you going through those long nights and those dark, sort of struggling days of early motherhood.
Very much so. Very much so. Yes.
And I think that's really lovely for us all to remember when we're going through those moments as well. So when you look back at that now, what do you see in yourself that was born during that challenging time as well?
Well, my story is a little bit unique as well because a month after Hannah's birth, I was told I couldn't have any more children. So I think my story is a little bit unique in that, once again, I recognized how lucky I was that I was able to have experienced a birth and experienced Hannah growing in my belly, as hard as it was, because I did have a very challenging pregnancy. But on the other side, I also had to then determine how I was going to fulfill the dream of having more children for myself and my husband. And because it was so important to me for Hannah to have sibling relationships, similar to the ones that I had growing up, because my brother and sister are such a significant part of my life. And so, as grateful as I was that I had Hannah, and she played such an important role in my helping me recognize my strength and resilience during a time where we were about to travel down a path to have more children that was quite unique and not nearly as established or known as it is today. That's surrogacy is much more common today. But definitely having gone through that helped me start to recognize my inner resilience. And going through surrogacy definitely, I'll be emotional a lot throughout this conversation, I'm sure, helped me understand how resilient I actually am.
It's so obvious how much this is still such an emotional conversation for you. What are the emotions that are there when you're reflecting on this now?
So I recently wrote a book, The Miles We Run. And
Yes.
I'm sure we'll get into this later. But the reason why I want to just bring this up now is because when we had started with surrogacy, I journaled our entire experience from day one to right till the end. And initially, that journal was intended to be a keepsake for our unborn child, to let them know how they came into this world, and one journal turned into two, which turned into three. Our road was not straight and narrow. It was filled with such complications and such challenges. And it took us over 4 years to complete our family. And about 5 years ago, I knew I had a story when I completed those journals, but I was also in the throes of raising our 4 children, and I thought it was not the time to write a book, so I put them away. And then 5 years ago, I revisited these journals, and it was such a cathartic experience rereading about my life that I realized I had never looked back. When we were through surrogacy, I moved forward with our life. I don't know if it's because I didn't want to look back or if I had suffered enough heartache that it wasn't necessary to look back, but I just moved forward with the beautiful life I had. And rereading these journals, it's almost like I was looking down on myself going, was this my life? Like, is this what I went through? Because the journals were complete stream of consciousness, and it just laid everything out there. And it really opened my eyes to what we had been through. And it was very therapeutic. I'm an emotional person on a good day, but this story, obviously, bringing my children into the world is very near and dear. And I think the emotion is just, it doesn't weigh on me in a negative way. It weighs on me in a very grateful way. So I'm very proud of my journey, and that's why I think it's still bears such emotion.
I can hear that so much, and it's actually made me emotional too, listening to you, because I'm sure so many of us listening to your story have been through periods in your life where you look back and you think, I don't actually know how I did that. It brings up for me, and that's why it's so emotional. Like literally,
Yes.
I could just start crying thinking about it. I've been through a 3-year period with one of my children, and I don't know how I did it. I look back and I think, was that even me? And that has been something to really reflect on, because, so much in our culture is, you have to feel it and you have to process it and you have to make sure that you're honoring the healing and all of these things. And yet when you're going through something so huge, whatever it is, whether it's with your children or whether it's trying to have a child or, a sick loved one, we do what we need to do to get through, don't we? So often.
Yes,
And
absolutely.
it's not until later that we can sit there and reflect on it and see the gifts and the resilience and process it differently, maybe process it for the first time. So it was so emotional for me to hear your reflections on that so much further down the path. And the gift of being able to pull out those journals and hear your own thoughts at the time. Wow, that is such an amazing thing to be able to do for yourself and your own healing. And then, of course, now share the story with all of us through your book.
Yes, it was exceptionally profound. It was a very, as I indicated earlier, cathartic experience that allowed me to really process, how we moved from, Hannah's birth to, having our three beautiful boys. And the journey was arduous. A lot of it was. And, just as you said, Amy, through my story, I hope readers see their own resilience reflected in their journey. And that's a big part of why I wrote the book. That is my hope, that, all of us go through challenges. We don't always take the time to reflect how we got through them, or what we learned through them, or the resilience and the inner strength we needed to get through them.
And that's okay to not be able to do it in the time as well, is what I got from your story. And what I love is, and it's such a huge story, we're not going to be able to go through all of it in this podcast. Obviously, we'll put the link to the book in the show notes. And I really encourage everybody to read it. It's a really beautiful insight into obviously the process of becoming a mother, but also so much more. Maybe now is the time to sort of shift into you as a woman through all of this and running and setting up a business, a fitness business. And I would love to hear when you reflected on that part of your life too, when you reflected on the resilience, the strength, the courage, the tenacity it's taken for you to be able to do this as well, in amongst all of that. So,
Right.
yes, share with everybody how that part of your life evolved.
So I'm a runner, and I've been a fitness enthusiast for most of my life. For my 50th birthday, which was a few years ago, I wanted to challenge myself in a way that I hadn't done in the past. And I thought running the New York City Marathon would be just the thing to do that. Because of COVID, I had to push that to 51. But while I was training for the marathon, some very interesting insight presented itself. And that was the same qualities that I remember feeling. And remember, at this point too, I'm training for the marathon. I've also started writing this book. I'm like, my goodness, I need resilience. I need the discipline. I need patience. I need some hope. I am calling on these same qualities that helped me through surrogacy to get me across the finish line of the New York City Marathon. And both these experiences really revealed the intrinsic link between mental and physical endurance. I needed the mental and physical endurance for surrogacy the same way as I needed it for achieving the New York City Marathon and crossing that finish line. They were totally different endeavors. Obviously, one is about having a baby, one is about running 26.2 miles. but they shared these qualities which I felt appropriate then to use in my book, because even though they're totally different, so much of it was the same. And as a result, I found a way to weave my marathon journey through my surrogacy journey. So
I love that so much. That's why I wanted to speak to you, because again, it's such a beautiful, hopeful reminder, I hope, for everyone who's listening, that the qualities that we uncover about ourselves, the strengths we explore in either becoming a mother or early motherhood, are the ones that hold us through all of the challenges or all of the transitions and transformations we go through in our life. And you don't see that when you're in the early stages. You don't see that this is actually forming and shaping you. It's like the fire of growth that you're being formed in that will then shape the way that you show up in your future, in different challenges, like you said, very different experiences and circumstances. But
totally, yes.
yeah, and that's hopeful for a mama who's right in the thick of it at the start. Like, the things that you are discovering about yourself right now is the making of you. I remember writing that in my own journal in the early years of motherhood. Like, this is making you, Amy. And
Right.
I love that that's what you're able to show us in this.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, the tagline I use all the time with my personal training business and through my online platform is, we can do hard things. And we can because we have. So
That's it.
yeah.
Yes. So when you think about the resilience and that strength that got you through all of these experiences, first time motherhood, finding out you couldn't have any more children, 3 more children through surrogacy, marathon, business, all of it. When you say resilience, what do you mean? Like, what is it that you have understood about yourself and what it takes to thrive through these experiences?
Another great question. Well, I think hope is a brave and deliberate decision.
Oh, I love that. Hope is a brave and deliberate decision.
We decide to be hopeful. Hope is a choice. And when you feel hope and you are pursuing something that you want, that helps you become more resilient. So resilience is like a muscle. The only way we grow it is through going through challenges. And otherwise it's dormant. And by going through challenges, which I have been through, and I am sure there will be more to go through as well in life, I have to remember that I can do hard things, that I am strong, and that I have found my way before and I will find my way again. And that doesn't mean that you can't allow yourself to feel bad, or you can't allow yourself to, regardless of what you're going through, I almost want to say, like, give yourself a bit of a pity party. Like, it's okay to do that. I know that because I did it many times for myself, but that doesn't make you not strong. That doesn't make you not resilient. It just allows you to give yourself a little time to grieve, to feel bad for yourself, to feel what you need to feel, so that you can say, okay, I have felt this, and now I am going to push forward the way I need to push forward to get through it. So,
That's so
having
important.
yes, is a really hard thing. It's obviously, it's life-changing. You've gone from, taking care of you to now you're not taking care of you anymore. You have to remember to take care of you, because you're taking care of this other little being that's, totally reliant on you. So and a lot of us can lose ourselves in that.
Yeah.
And, especially at the beginning where we're just trying to figure it out and find our way. And, we have to find that balance. But resilience resides within all of us.
Mm.
Some of us are able to find it a little more easily than others, but it lives within all of us.
And like you said, and it was I think one of the first questions I asked you, or the first reflections, is that we can be incredibly strong and brave and resilient, and also have moments of, like you said, a pity party, or we're also allowed to take a moment and reflect on how huge this has been or how traumatic that birth has been. Resilience doesn't mean, okay, no matter what. There has to be a balance there as well. And I think that's also really important to point out.
Yeah.
And what happens, maybe we'll finish here, Alison, what happens when, because your work and your book is so much about hope as well as resilience. What about when you have those moments where you're not sure if you can hold on to hope anymore? Because I know there's been so many moments like that in your journey as well. What do we do when we've been holding on to hope and suddenly, or not suddenly, we have moments where we think, I don't know how to hold on to hope anymore?
Amy, that's such a reflective thought. It's very true. There were many moments where I wondered how I was going to get to the next stage, how I was going to push through, a miscarriage, a fetal reduction. There are many, many moments in our journey where I truly questioned where my hope lived. And I think the answer to that is deep within. I have always felt an intuitive voice, and I have done my best to let it guide me. And I know that sounds funny, and not everybody can relate to that, which is okay. But I would always rather be hopeful than not. And I made a point, even when I was having days where things were just going so awfully wrong, that whether it was the support of my husband or my daughter, it was huge to have her help me through so much of what I was feeling during those early days, because I was living almost two lives. I was living our surrogacy life, and I was living the life of a new mom. And
wow,
that offered me a wonderful escape, and just to focus solely on her and not be focused on, how I was going to build our family, especially when things were going wrong. But she provided me with hope too. And as I said earlier, if your audience can take anything away, it's that really hope is a brave and deliberate decision. We choose hope, and my hope lives deep within myself.
Oh, what a beautiful answer. Thank you so much. This has been a really beautiful reminder today, and I know everyone who's listening to this will feel the same. Thank you for sharing your story and for showing up so vulnerable and open to this conversation. It really was transforming. So thank you.
Thank you so much for having me, Amy. It's been lovely speaking with you.
I'll pop all of the details of your book and your work in the show notes. Thanks, everybody. See you next week.
Thanks, as always, for being a part of our global matrescence community. Please take a moment and make sure you're subscribed to this podcast in your podcast player so you can always be notified of our next episode. And if you would like to work with a coach on your own experience of matrescence, please go to mummarising.net and explore our directory of phenomenal coaches, workshop leaders, space holders and facilitators around the globe. You can also explore our Global Matrescence Foundation and consider donating so a mama in need can access the support of one of our coaches and still ensure that our coaches receive the income and support they need so they can continue to work in this way. And finally, if you would like to be a coach, a facilitator and a matrescence activist in your own community, jump on our waitlist for our next intake of the Mama Rising Facilitator Training at mummarising.net. Thank you for being here and being part of this movement. Until next week, bye.